Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday evening talk. And before we started this talk, I would like to remind everyone. Also, don't expect too much. Okay, this is important because this is a Lama. He may transform me, or he may have best things to say. And I may be get the full information about what to do and what not to do. So it's when you have that expectation, then of course I have nothing to say new. Everything was already set by all the great teachers and all those great thinkers and great philosophers. And moreover, all the information that I'm going to say or to deliver you today is all accessible in the internet and Google's. If you are not busy, you can find it, So only thing was physically we may say, we share some personal experience. That's all, So then end of that you may get really upset. Oh, I waste my time, blah blah blah. So anyway, but that's important. And it's also part of the motivation to listening or to discuss or to attend any teaching. Or it's not teaching, it's a public talk actually. To how you benefit all those talk or this lecture is depend on how you conceive this, how you look at the speakers and how you interpret this message. And for Buddhism, we always emphasize on checking or shaping our motivations. Shaping our motivation is very important to receive how the teaching can benefit us and how we can utilize or how we can implement those teachings for our day-to-day life. And for this also, so one important thing that we have to keep reminding ourselves that especially in the West, I'm not targeting or I'm not criticizing Western, but over mentality, over socially, we have this, habit of wanting to know something new, funny things, which makes us happy or entertained. And then you really get like this is wonderful, this cool, this something like that. In a reality that we didn't put that into practice or put that in your integrating our daily life, then it not benefit to see who we are or to see what we can do or what we can achieve in our daily life. Or before that, let me ask you, how many of you are new here? Can you please raise if you don't mind? Okay, fairly, yes, okay. So you guys have read or have some Buddhist background before? No? So one thing very challenging for the speaker like me here in permanently is one challenge is because randomly we have a different audience. Some of them are totally newcomer, they have no idea about Buddhism. Some of them are really, old members, they have hearing this overdose, all these terms and terminology and metaphor over and over again. You guys may be so, boring with this topic. And if we try to go a little bit deeper, then the rest of the new audience doesn't sense. Because it doesn't relate to them and it's not appropriated to tell exactly directly to something else without laying out the foundation or laying out the instruction on the basic Buddhist principles and ideas. So it's very challenging for the teachers also. And also Buddha says, teachings, when any teacher or any speaker who give a speech or give a talk or give teaching, we should understand the needs of the sentient being, needs of the audience. Of course, we all need information and guidance. We need instruction to make ourselves more comfortable, or more happier, maybe enlightened. So for this, And then in monastery tradition, we are teach and shape our mentality in such a way that we will never boring with the same words or same teaching. Even the 100 times we hear that, we can pick or we can understand 100 different meanings. Like even you say today like emptiness. Emptiness, today you're understanding for the first beginner maybe like this, and after you're hearing again and again, understanding is to understand yourself inside. Because this is, after all, the spiritual practice is not intellectual knowledge, number one. So it's intellectual knowledge. It doesn't mean that you hear one time and you know words. It doesn't mean that you are perfect on that spiritual path. So here when we present any Buddhist topic or any Buddhist teaching, it's mainly to grow that into the heart. If you're really understanding about your emptiness, you maybe have heard 100 times, and if you have an understanding inside you and you realize that, then you can start complaining, okay, I am boring. I heard this 100 times. In here, including even like I'm supposed to be a Buddhist practitioner for last 23 years. I have no understanding about the emptiness or this. I'm just presuming and trying to digest the teaching that has taught by my teachers. So for me, when each time or any teacher or any instructor give these teachings, my job is to understand this deeper in my heart, not the overdose with getting boring with these terms and terminology. So what I'm trying to saying here is to try to understand. Even some teacher says this 100 times. You should measure your understanding on those principles by thinking yourself inwards. Don't try to blame him or blame anybody else. Instead of that, try to understand that words inside you and what is your understanding about those principles and those words and those terms. And then it serves the purpose. It can bring some kind of transformation. After all these talks and teachings are meant to transform ourselves and others through understanding the teachings. So here, when we give a teaching, it doesn't mean that you should believe Buddha or believe Buddha because they are this. No. In Buddha himself taught us that don't rely on my words, rely on my teaching. First, in our Buddhist theory or in Buddhist teaching, in our monastery, we don't totally, let's believe in Buddha's teaching. We try to first find out who is the Buddha, why we call it enlightened person, how he got enlightened, whether his teaching are valid for us or not. We check by debating, by verification, through verification of logic, through verification of references for the higher realized masters. That's why each teaching is supposed to give by referring to the quotation or refer or support by logics. Because these should be more authentic and more validated. And we cannot say whatever I think from the mouth if we really follow the tradition. And also traditional teaching should not only mean just for the particular teaching. That's why Buddha has taught a variety of teachings. Because we have a variety of mental dispositions. Some may have wanted to understand this way or other may wanted to this way. That's why each time when people give this example of Buddhism is not just a belief or dogma, it is a food for mind. Not only Buddhism, all religions, I saw many these lectures in YouTube with what do you call this? Those people who don't believe in God and any spiritual practice, what do you call this? Atheists. These guys are really amazing. And sometimes we have to think about them also. Totally just believing in the blind faith, how they live the life or understanding really in practical, in experiencing way, in understanding way. Not just believing because somebody said that or this is because the tradition followed in centuries. So here the teaching is for we need what we need. Our instinct, our natural way of our desire is to getting better comfort, happiness. Happiness is a big issue. It's a big talk every way. When you see the happiness, we really go the second thoughts and then we go there to find. You know, happiness, happiness from understanding in different point, different understanding. We try to find happiness from different way. Like these days, I'm trying to happiness from my small car. You know, someone, you know, I saw other day in the shop, the people try to buy many camping stuffs. They try to find happiness from the camping. And then also the American dreams, our dreams, Tibetan, Asian dreams to come in this country and become one of the American citizen. When you get green card or the citizen, we are so happy that we are seeking the happiness here. And then until now, every one of us, we reflected our life, how we live, whether it's meaningful for us, what we want in our life, what does life mean for us, and how what we are seeking really, including this tonight. Do what really wants to seek something beyond our ordinary desire and temptations? Until now, what we achieved, even we have so much things in life, still we are happy. If we are really happy, it's okay. Forget about finding something else because we are already happy. No, I hope none of us is happy all the time. Maybe morning if we are very happy, and evening we will get really upset. That is our nature. That's why Buddha says, don't think yourself a healthy person. Think yourself as a sick person. It doesn't mean that we sick from physical or emotional. Because in potential form in our mind, mind stream, because afflictive imprint was strongly resonate or deeply rooted in our mind, which only need the cause or conditions. If conditions rise, then we get really upset. We really get suffer. So the solution here, and tonight topic, okay, tonight topic, I choose this 8 worldly consent. Where's the dog? Here. He asked me to talk about this. I say, yes, I don't know how to talk this. I never talk about this. Then I try to read something from this, but also like it looks like very simple. They have nothing to talk. We all experience that. This 8 worldly consent is you name that. What are the 8 worldly consent? Yeah. So name, fame, pain and pleasure, and good reputation and bad reputation, and then gain and loss, and praise and discrimination. This actually very easy to understand, right? We can understand in general, feeling in day-to-day life. We have experience in this, and some of us also even we didn't see this any fault or any wrong with these emotions. They are natural, feeling or emotion of the human beings. When we see from the mundane level, see from the worldly level, then it's nothing wrong with having seeking happiness and when get upset with the unhappiness. That's our psychologically is natural tendency to react with these things, reaction with these emotions. But as being a spiritual, especially from the Buddhist point of view, don't get fool yourself with these emotions. These are mundane. We call this worldly 8 consent. This is nothing. These are your illusionary thoughts which created in your brain or mind and keep making you miserable, and still we don't know what is the cause of that. We never try to remove these emotions, including name and fame. We want this more. We know it makes us feel good when we have this. We really don't know that what lies beneath this after we have this in this, and at a long time, even we don't know the consequences. And instead of removing these 8 worldly consent, what we do, oppositely, we try to seek, what we try to adopt this, like, we try to make our name, try to gain more and more possessions. So, in Buddha's teaching, it says, these are called worldly consent. Worldly consents are usually, we don't have any particular subject, except this is, I took it from the Nagarjuna's letter to the friends. His friends, one of the king in India. So he wrote this, Nagarjuna wrote this letter to him to give instruction on teaching for him, particularly for him, to understand how we live in the world. And why are these a problem? Number one, we don't see this a problem. That's a big problem. That itself is a big problem. So if you reflect and gradually think about this 8 worldly consent, this is the most difficult for us. Really, this is a big problem. First, let's say gain and loss. You just reflected what in truly, you honestly, you reflected, does this bothering you? Gain and loss? No? Good news? No, definitely, if you gain something, you are very happy, right? Gain in material possession or any other things. We are very happy. So if we content with that gain, then it's okay. The worst case is because gaining, why we are happy? Because we have a desire for that and attachment for that. Then root of this, being happy with gaining is desire and attachment. So what is the result? Result is definitely suffering. Why? Because if you gain something really precious, including the status, or your life partners, your material possessions. And unfortunately, we forget also that all these gains comes with the expiry date. They are impermanent. They change by minute. And so nature is in that condition, what we can expect, it's going to lose one day. Or we have to throw it out. Or we have to let it go. So these are the nature of, this is a practical, very universal, So now, after gaining what we do, we have to lose one day, including our physical body. Including our physical body, which we cherish, and some of them we go to gym and build a lot of muscles, a lot of exercise. We try to be very strong. Unfortunately, every year by year, we're getting weaker and weaker, and more problems we have found out in our physical form. We don't want to see the change. So these are we losing gradually. The physical strength is losing. Mental capacity is losing. Our resources is losing, because it's not the condition that we created. It is not the God that we wish that it is in that condition. It is a natural phenomena. It's a natural process. Unfortunately, we didn't realize that it's a natural process. Then unfortunately, we didn't realize. Moreover, what happens? We try to resist, including our death. We don't want to die. Even doctors say tomorrow or day after tomorrow you're going to die, according to the medical result, but still want to live for another few minutes, another few years. That is our natural instinct. Now Buddhist says, don't get miserable death yourself through seeing this by expecting something in flow of the natural process. They say, try to see from different angle that everything comes with the impermanent condition, everything comes with the expiry date. So you should accept this and learn to live the life with that flow of life. So that is the teaching that we understand. So here, gain and lose. When you gain, just appreciate. In the Buddhist point of view, in spiritual life, whenever you gain something, Just appreciate and rejoice your good hard work. I deserve this. Don't generate pride. Instead of that, appreciate your hard work. Make a commitment that you want to do better in future. Instead of like just overblaming, and then you're like, oh, I got this, I got this. And then also remember that time, this will never gonna last for long, including our resources, including our life partners. We meet some way, we build a relationship, and then we hope for the best, maintain for the best. And also many of the trouble that we are facing in day-to-day life, including our divorce, our separation, our losses, based on our different arrogance, different mental attitude, which lead from like this, pain and happiness. Because we always expect that possession should give me always happy, 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 happy. Like we buy a big house, we buy a good car, we have a beautiful life partner, and we expecting every time I live with these resources in this condition, I may be the happiest person. That is our expectation. Then what happens, we didn't see this also change, then we get really upset if it doesn't fulfill our wishes or fulfill our desire. Or I thought that this will give me this lasting, happiness. Now it brings me pain. It brings me unsatisfaction. So here the teaching says, don't expect that at the beginning. Letting it go. Number one, you try to cultivate the sense of caring, sense of responsibility, sense of understanding about the nature. So this will bring you a satisfaction. Even you be getting the worst conditional things of possession, you can utilize this as the most precious and most valuable things in your life. That's not because from the it's not from the subjective itself, but it's from the objective itself, but it's from our subjective. That's how we utilize our day-to-day life in living with this principle. Losing, like, including, you just imagine, you name them, like, fight between different nations. We have so many cases, court fight, we have equipments. These are based on our gaining. We want to gain this, we want to gain this, and we don't want to lose. So equipment started coming. This gain is because of our desire. That was the number one. We need to see who created this problem. So Buddhists say it's not from our pain and pleasure in our daily life. It's not about the gift of the God. And also, fortunately, we don't need to have a large amount of money, $1 million, to buy those happiness or cultivate those good qualities. We can cultivate ourselves. If we learn the technique, if we learn follow the teaching. And then, second thing, pain and pleasure. This is some says bliss. I don't know what this means, but bliss. This is how you understand. So pain and pleasure we can experience daily life, especially the emotional pain and pleasure. How this, really we have to reflect it in daily life. If I do this, what our expectation? Then if we if we have an understanding about these natural changes about our physical and our resources, we can reduce our pain and pleasure, especially our health issue. Yeah, I saw many people taking many tablets, maybe supplementary tablet, maybe antidepressant tablet, or other tablets that we try to reduce our emotional pain and physical pain. When you understand these pains and their nature, I think we can reduce many of these pills and their cause. And this process of understanding this is to reflect them, making familiar with our mind, and resonate in our brain, especially in mind, in daily life, once actually it happens, instead of overreacting with those circumstances, we should try to find a solution from different angle, different way, by understanding the nature. Then we see that all this responsibility will be totally on us, not on anybody else. Even conditions rise in the collective way, our individual skill of approaching towards those circumstances brings a different result in us. That you can see, like I used to watch one of this film called Titanic movie in a long time. And the first time I was so boring, they're talking. Second time, I heard the story from the friends, so it's exciting. Third time, I put myself on one of those passenger and try to see. So you see these hundreds of different people have a different way of thinking. You see those musicians, they play very happily, they don't care about what they do. They just play for them, try to, that's the one way. And sometimes they are so selfish to try to escape them from the situation, but they never get met. Some of them, they take really like those police, they take duty and protect the passengers instead of thinking themselves. Just imagine how the different individuals' mentality towards the different circumstances. Then who suffer the most? We see those people who really, try to protect the rest and never concern about themselves. I think the calm, more peaceful person there. Those who have a most selfish person, they are the most miserable in that circumstances. But all of them are suffer the same and facing the same circumstances. But why people have a different mentality and different peace or different way of thinking? It's all come from mind. How they react with the situation. So this teaches us, actually, we all are in more critical situation than the Titanic. Really, in life, we are in a big boat in samsara, where we may have so many different, we may face so many challenges in our life. In daily life. Who can tell that tomorrow we may have a most difficult life? If you have an accident in the road and you are in the, very critical condition in the hospital, how you want to react with that situation? That we need to prepare. And today we may seem like healthy, and tomorrow you feel uncomfortable. Day after tomorrow you go to hospital and the doctor diagnoses something very critical and very serious. How you going to react with that situation? Because no one has exception for this kind of suffering, especially this suffering, because it's bound to happen in any time. Only way of thinking is to prepare for that and how you want to react with this. And some people, like one of my friends from Dallas, and I was surprised. She didn't have any idea about the Buddhist belief before that, because this gives her opportunity to slow down her life and think in different angle, different way to prepare these consequences. She diagnosed with the breast cancer, and instead of fighting emotionally, she learned how to treat herself, how to comfort herself, how to bring peace in herself. That is the skill, really skill. Some individual may this skill by naturally, naturally they are very intelligent. When instead of reacting negatively, they try to cultivate or try to understand and try to solve the problem through their intellectual knowledge or intellectual understanding or intellectual wisdom. We call this born with the wisdom. Instead of let's just freak out, we will find the solution. So like, that's why in Buddhist teaching, number one, we always say, don't expect life is always smooth. Oh, I will be happy with a big house, I will get a big new nice job, I will have a nice family, I may have a good income. Because life is always not like that in reality. Because that's over expectation, It doesn't mean that you will be always having all these wonderful things in life. Life is always bumpy. We know that, but we forget, and in the moment we are upset, then we started complaining. That's our solution. But in Buddha say, don't do this. And especially, I don't know how I can interpret these 6 mundane in the general public like this, but these are something beyond this ordinary life. That's why it's called 8 mundane, 8 worldly concern. Worldly and spiritual. In Buddhist term, and when it's spiritual, it's all beyond this life. So if you think or do with this, in this only life, it's become the worldly life, because this is a worldly way we live, way we deal. Generally, I'm speaking about this worldly concern, how to solve this, including like, when we started any meditation practice, like beginning, we have a very interesting story about this worldly consent. One of the great master meditator in Tibet, he used to meditate in the mountains. Then he have some sponsor benefacting time to time. They serve him food and bring the food and necessary things for him. And then one day, and usually he just he tried to concentrate more on his meditation, and his offerings are generally not decorated. So he heard that one of his benefactor or his sponsor is coming to visit him. So that day he cleaned all his altar and decorated with the offerings and on this. Then he tried to sit on meditation, and he realized that these are all because to please his benefactor, his sponsors. And then he grabbed some dirt and throw on the decoration of the offering. And then this act was heard by one of the master in another part in Western Tibet. And when he heard this, he just folded hand and he says, and the practitioner name is called Begunjin, or Geshe Begunjin practitioner. Oh, today the Geshe Begunjin has thrown us that stuff on the mouth of the 8 worldly consent. Because usually we live with the 8 worldly consent, we are overpowered with this consent and then react to overactions, and everything become not natural. Like, if I sit here and try to be something scholastic, or I learned one and try to pretend like I'm like saying this, I'm fooling myself, really. So I'm just giving an example, but in, like any job in professional, we always try to be, like skillful like this. Even you really don't mean for that, but we try to act this to getting praise from our colleagues, or try to make yourself a little big, because this all rooted in our ego after all. And then what happens? In reality, if you are not that, especially when you are interacting with the different people, we always try to show up. Show up what happens, then it's bring us the discrimination. Some people may don't like the show up. Then they will say, oh, why is he doing this thing? We don't like to hear this. Why? Because we are so attached to ourselves. So in the Buddhist says, all these 8 worldly concerns are rooted in our self-centered attitude, or we call this self-grasping attitude. Because we are so self-grasping with our self-identity, and that self-identity was the most important for us. Even you compare with your family, exceptionally some mothers, when they have incomes with the caring of their own child, then they can give many of these 8 worldly consent, because they can totally commit it to taking care of that child or for his welfare. They can sacrifice this. They never say, I'm a great, you are my child, because unconditional life. That's why they can overcome with this arrogant attitude, with overcoming with unconditional love for one of those child. Same thing Buddha says, these can overcome with the 2 things. One is understanding about the reality of all the natural phenomena, including our self-identity. Another is a great compassion. Great compassion was, without regarding on the base of any individual or any sentient being, just reflecting the suffering of them into you, reflecting your suffering and related that into the suffering of rest of the other sentient being, then you have a unconditional love, like you having, the most closest understanding of unconditional love is mother's love for the children. So if we could generate that kind of compassion towards all the sentient beings, understanding that all they are suffer like us, we can overcome with many this stupidity in our daily life. Because most of this comes when we have this sense of like, I'm the one most important. That's misperception, what you call this misunderstanding, was due to not knowing what is the reality of our existence. We Buddhists call this, actually, here it also says this is the, if we do not develop our understanding about our existence, especially the existence of ourselves, and then all this 8 worldly consent. Like, usually, if we give an example like name and fame, praise, this is just a vowel, right? If somebody say you are like God, you are not God. Why you have been so overwhelmed with the hear that words? You are you, who you are. But we are so much, like what do you call this? So in tune with that words, just vowel. Even the people say you are demon. You are not demon. Why you get upset? It's just words. And even it's actually we have to be petty, because his I version or his mentality has mind has something wrong, because he see human being as a demon. But instead of thinking that way, we just get totally upset ourselves. So here teach us, don't look in that way, look from different way, beyond our worldly thinking, go beyond our worldly thinking. First check why you like pain and pleasure, and pain or like gain, why you like happiness, why you so concerned about praise, why you so dislike about blame, why you so concerned about fame. If you're really good and be yourself who you are, so fame is nothing. And the worst case is if we are so trapped into those concepts and so getting depressed with this idea of name and fame, even we can sacrifice our own life, which we cherish. We are so, if we reflect, we are so foolish. One side, we try to protect ourselves and make ourselves most important, but even the people criticize you, don't want to listen, hear that. And one thing we are trying to kill ourselves when we lose our status, like, sometimes people lose the name and the fame, they are criticizing, they blame, then they suicide. So why this happen? So this, Buddhist says, this is because of our misconception about self-identity. Because number one, we don't understand how we exist. And we live with the idea of concrete self-identity, like everybody has the identity, which was actually nothing more than labeling. We say this is label. Everybody has carry some self-identity, maybe professional identity or naming identity, like if you are race identity or like social status identity, like we can say he's a billionaire, the social status identity. We say I'm John, it's naming given by your parents. I'm American because of society labeling. I'm a professor because of your educational status. These labels just label, you are just a human being. Nothing, you have emotional problem, you try to solve the problem, that's all. It doesn't mean that you are the enlightened. So these are just label, comes with due to some condition. And we don't understand that that label was truly exists and should be preserved. Like if I'm a John, I really want to become a John, and most important. If we truly reflected ourselves, our John is just a giving by our parents. When we take a birth, before even you don't know when you give a birth, nobody knows John is born, right? Do we know that John is born on that day? No. John was given by your parents after you born. Now, how this exists in our daily life? Why we need to understand our true self? Because then John was born and we level and we try to navigate it our life with that self-identity, carrying that status, whether it is a name or status. Try to preserve that, believing that that is inherently exists, which means it's not depend on any other. It exists from its own. I don't know whether you can make sense on this or not. So for this, then it's become very important for us to build up that status or build up that name or build up that fame. Try to protect the interests of that. And Buddha says, no, you are wrong. You are hallucinating with yourself. Like in the dream, when we have dream of becoming like king, and we are so happy, right? Then after maybe we defeat with the other king, and in dream, like we are getting so miserable. We are losing our like identity of becoming a king, or princess, or prince. I don't know, nobody have that dream, but maybe the wrong analogy. Like maybe say like the most like the CEO or something, CEO of some company, and whatever you desire in your life. So we are just maybe dreaming about that in the dream. But when we really get miserable, especially in nightmares, like we are losing something in our dream, like whether it's a name or possession or your physical form, or whatever it is, really get miserable. When you wake up, it's all just dream. In the spiritual realm, in spiritual understanding, especially from the Buddhist point of view, these are something like dream. You get name, you play the role of that. We are all like actor. You act like professor, you give it this you professor. When you retire, you are ex-professor, right? What happened if you are really professor at the beginning and inherently you should professor for your lifetime? No, it's just giving name when you have that job. After finish, you are no more president or no more professor. It's just a name. Then why you get upset when you have that name and you discriminate with that name of that status? It's actually just a label in our brain. We see that individual or that person become something else when we give the name, including our president. Like let us give example of Obama. Obama is just an ordinary person. He's just a professor. When he win that election, and then country says over so and so, 50 or 45 or so, president is Mr. Obama. Then his level of Obama was started building in mental conscious here. So he's become big. Actually, he's the same person he used to teach in the Chicago University. He's the same guy. Why he's become so important and protected by thousands of those FI and these CIs? Because of label. So if we are really stupid, we are really trapped with that label, and then try to protect their interest. That's why, like you see Syria, Bashar al-Assad, who is, from my understanding, he tried to protect his status, don't care about killing the thousands and thousands. If we let go, okay, you Syrian people can choose whoever you want, I'm going to live this, I will live happily with whatever I have money, then I hope they shouldn't have that problem. Why he was so attached with his idea of his Bashar al-Assad, president of Syria. Then these other people have their own interests. I'm his relative, I'm his minister, I'm his president, secretary, all these have their own status, started building. And then protect that interest, and then you see how many people are dying, how many people are killing. So this is just example that we can see, and these are reflected on yourself. Like I'm a John. Why should I blame by everybody? Why should I be little by this and that? So, like this Buddhist in the teaching we say, and then also it really concern also elaborated. If you go deeper into like those I'm saying for the long-time Buddhist philosopher, it also contains these three principles part. Like renunciation, and also like great compassion, with aspect of wisdom aspect, and the method aspect, and wisdom aspect called realization of the emptiness, you can say. How this shows these three? If we didn't renounce this worldly consent, number one, we are not spiritual practice. Okay, especially for long-time Buddhist truth practitioner, if you are mixed with these emotions and doing the practice of spiritual practice, don't think we are truly a Buddhist practitioner. If you think I will get, okay, if I do shamatha meditation, I maybe attend the clairvoyance to read other people's mind, or I can fly, maybe I can blow people's and then remove their suffering. What we expecting? We're expecting name, some power, to fame, to show off. That is not the Buddhist practice. One that. And so here, worldly tamakonsent, renouncing means you don't care about this, care about gain, because gaining is nothing. We born with nothing, we goes with nothing. Even if we have $1 million, when time of death comes, we go with nothing. Truly practitioner, what we go with, when we're dying, what we go with? We go with the strength of our mind training, how we, motivate it, how we can, in time of death, what we have to think. Really, instead of like, now I'm losing my house, I left my family, I left my this and that, I have this, my bank account, my beautiful car, my this, that. At time of death, okay, now this is my time. Is to see the strength of my practice, spiritual practice. Because spiritual practice, in transition from this life to next life, we carry the power of our mind, which I have trained for lifetime, to transit from this life to next life. We use that skill of dying. Skill of dying comes from skill of living. Skill of living, why it makes a difference in the skill of dying? Because if you live happily, live meaningfully, live accordingly with the spiritual guidance, we definitely die very contently, very rejoicingly. We may not be so many regret, because I don't know, maybe this is not related for the many of you, but in what happens in time of death, especially like people like me, I know the concept of rebirth. So in next rebirth is depend on my action in this life or action in my past life. I definitely know that they have so many negative actions that I've done in my many life in past. And this life, I may not serious practitioner, I have wasted so much on this worldly consent. Now I know that the result in my future life will be determined by my negative karma or negative action. In time of death, I may get so many regret. Oh, I've not done this, not done this, not done this. So full of regret. Now what I can do, because it's just a few minutes that I have to think. Luckily, if I can think about my teachers, or like if I'm strong enough, I can maybe think like great compassion. That's very lucky. Maybe I have a chance to born in the higher realms. But if I done horribly long in my life, then there's so many regret. That's for the Buddhist practitioner, okay? Like those who are really in the Buddhist practitioner. General topic, I don't know how you deal with the life. I mean, the time of death. It's not all about, when we talk about death, the death is not about scaring ourselves, but really preparing for death. Even you don't believe life after death, at least in time of your death, at least you get relaxed, okay? Like, oh, now I'm so happy being with you for many years. I really appreciate it. So I really thank for all of my family members and friends. I'm going to die happily. Can anyone do like this? If you can do like this, don't bother about this and that. No, it's really, I don't know how to react. Even I'm thinking about death. Why I need to think? Because in time of death, I'm not scaring you. In the Buddhist principle, if you really do a lot of negative action in our lifetime, time of death is so horrible because of this negative action has started popping up to repent the next life. So if you cannot facilitate it or give a condition of some positive, the conditions, definitely this negative emotion started repenting. And then what happened? You have a feeling of experiencing horrible things, especially like when you are, you're going to born in unfavorable realms, like animal realm. Your experience will, that is not difficult to understand. And if you are supposed to face some kind of, really uncomfortable incident, sometimes we can feel that, Today you don't have a reason, but you feel really upset or feel very low, but then next time it happens because it's all about the dependent and energy was all dependent, and so it's happening there. So it's a time of death. That's why we keep reminding, because this is the best driving force for us to think more spiritual things instead of focusing on the mundane or worldly actions. Worldly actions consume over time. Like sometimes, especially like big city like New York, I saw some of my friends, including me. I used to stay there like 21 days, and I want to see or explore the city. So, like morning I take the breakfast and take the subway and then go here and there, here and there, here and there. After coming back in the evening and the 9 o'clock, I'm so tired, I sleep. Because I run after the whole day or these weeks running after my desire to see that, see this, so this, see this. And after all, when I reflected now, did I gain something from this, from my spiritual practice? Nothing. It's like dream. Just I saw this Leaning Tower, I saw the Statue of Liberty, I saw the Union Square, I saw the Times Square. Then what? What benefits me? Maybe I can show up other people that I saw in New York. That's all. Who cares about that? So I'm giving the example. In reality, we are like trying to make money from this job, that job, this job, this job. So many challenges with our boss, so many challenges with our co-workers, creating problem them for ourselves, and try to buy new house, try to sell this house, try to buy new car, try to change our life partners. Our whole purpose is to become happier, right? But unfortunately, that is, in the spiritual point of view, that is not the way that we can seek the happiness. If you really want to be happy, even you have a small house with an unpleasant looking life partner with a very good heart, in the day-to-day expenses, and if you think that you are the richest person, you're having the best life partner, and you think you have a beautiful house, that is the most happiest person. No, I'm not trying to exaggerate. I even have a desire to big house and this and that. What I'm trying to tell you is, well, I have this quality, you should do this. I'm not saying this. My whole purpose is trying to remind ourselves that how we live in our life and how should we live according to the Buddhist practice or spiritual way of thinking. It's not about, when we say this is not about believing Buddha, it's not about the believing Buddhist theory. It is like universal principle to be content. It's a universal principle. And when we do this called well deity prayers, so Asian mentality, when you do the well deity prayer, especially prayer for Zambala, you may get a lot of money like this. And then some people complaining, oh, we have done Lord deity prayer or this and that, still we have a financial problem. Idea of doing this like prayer is not to cultivate the label money, which is a paper, give a label and then become is so important. It is cultivating the richness in your heart, contentment, seeing the unnecessary way of thinking to waste your energy, waste your time to collecting so much money and so much possession. In the end, bottom line is, do we be happy with those things? No. So here in Buddhist teaching or Buddhist practice, it says, learn the richness from your heart. That is to generate or cultivate the sense of contentment. If you content with anything, then even you lose, you don't mind. Because, okay, I lose my beautiful watch. Of course, I have a cell phone to check my watch, so who cares about that? It's just a plastic and the metal, after all. If you have that attitude, it makes you miserable to losing that expensive watch. So it's of course, it's like giving example, but idea is how we use our intelligence to solve the day-to-day life problem, which teach us to look beyond this life. That is called spiritual life. And then also we Buddhists call this dharma. Practice dharma, practice dharma, practice dharma. We say always do practice dharma, do practice dharma. And we have a story about this in the one time, and also wrong notion we have in the West, or especially like new beginner, for the spiritual followers. When you say you do some mantra or do some prostration or reciting some mantra, we think, no, not you, sorry, we think that we are engaging in the spiritual practice. So also we have to check whether this is spiritual practice. We don't need to ask other people whether this is, we check our motivation. And the story goes like, I think it's in the 7th century, or the way one of the Indian master called Atisha came invited from India to teach Buddhism for the Tibetans. And then he came to Tibet, and he had many followers. And so many of his disciples, they started practicing different form of religious activities. Some are doing circumambulation, some are doing prostration, some are reciting mantras and sutras, some have tried to do meditation. And then this master knows what their motivation is, what their intention. So each time he tried to come across any disciple who is doing something, holy things, like prostration or circumambulating, he always tell them, oh, you're doing circumambulation, it's very great, but do the true dharma. Or your prostration is doing prostration is great, do the true dharma. Or reciting this mantra and reciting this sutra is great, but do the true dharma. So he is repeating, and he's repeatedly instructed this to one of his students. So first he's doing the prostration. So the Adisha told him to try to do the true dharma. Prostration is good. So he thought, oh, maybe prostration, maybe not the true dharma. So I do the circumambulation. So you do the circumambulating, the temple or this. So again Adisha says, okay, circumambulating the temple is great or stupa is great, but try to do the true dharma. So he think that, okay, now true dharma means reciting or reading some Buddhist textbook or sutras. So he read this, recite this mantra and textbooks. Then Adisha also says, okay, reciting and reading the dharma book is great, but do the true dharma. So he was really confused. What is mean by true dharma? I'm trying to do some holy things to follow the practice of Buddhism and or try the spiritual path, but you always keep saying me the true dharma, true dharma. And then he says, okay, true dharma is not depend on your actions. True dharma is how you transform your mind. Transforming your mind, so what? Transforming our mind is with the genuine our intention towards enlightenment and our true intention of purifying our negative antidotes. Then he asks, what is the true dharma? He simply says, true dharma is the only dharma which can antidote to afflicted emotion. Why it is the true dharma? What is the dharma? Actually, number one, why we get enlightened? Why we suffer? Here, enlightened is nothing. Enlightened doesn't mean that you born in the heaven, having a mystical figure or supernatural power is not enlightened in the Buddhist sense. Enlightenment is the state, mental state, where you're free from all the afflicting emotion and its mental imprint. Moreover, its mental imprint. So mental imprint is like this. Maybe it's difficult to understand some of the newcomers. Mental imprint, we give this metaphor. When you, crush or garlic in some pot, even you clean up all this raw physical form, still you can smell the garlic inside that pot. So in our negative emotion like attachment, sometimes that sometimes we can experience. Even you let go, whether your life partner or whether your procession, but still in deep down there you have a uncomfortable feeling that you don't want to let go, very uncomfortable feeling in deep down there. Of course, this is not the subtler form of mental imprint, but it's grosser form of mental imprint, which even you see it's no meaning to be with that or take that possession, but you already, okay, that's no meaning, it gives me so much pain and so much problem, I want to let it go. But still deep down there in your heart you have very uncomfortable feeling that you don't know, but still this. That is called imprint. Imprint was making this. So what I'm saying, where I'm going. So here, when we do the dharma practice, over transforming our mind. Transforming our mind for what? Why we need to transform our mind? Because unhealthy way of living or thinking too healthy way of living and thinking. Why? Because unhealthy way of living and thinking was come from our emotions, afflicted emotions. We may become very selfish because of our self-attitude, and we may become very short-tempered because of our anger. We may become very attached. So these afflicted emotion created a different way of living. More you have that, more your living is unhealthy. That we can experience. If you are attached with the particular things, become you so obsessed with that, and then you wanting more and more and more and more and more, because your attachment. So for these, what we need to transform, first we need to see the drawback of those emotions. Once we see the negative drawback of these negative emotions, then we can transform through practicing the path. That practicing path or process is called meditation. So meditation is nothing, just a mental exercise to make you transform from unhealthy way of thinking or unhealthy way of living towards healthy way of living. So for this meditation exercise, what we need, because mentally we are sick with the different afflicted emotions, we need the antidote for this. For antidote, we consider it as the medicine, like wisdom, tolerance, forgiveness, great compassion, great wisdom to understand the nature of phenomena. We call this seeing the real suchness. I don't know whether this makes sense. So here when this teacher says through the Dhamma, even we try to do some meditation, if you are really thinking about changing yourself from unhealthy way of thinking to a healthy way of thinking, you are on the right track, you are truly doing the Dharma. If you are not thinking on that way and thinking something else and try to do meditation, then and it's not the true Dharma. That is the one teaching. And then here, most important for our daily life, try to see the negative consequence of this 8 worldly consent. Most important is 8 worldly consent. And, from your understanding, try to understand through what brings them pain for you, not into the short term and the long term also. Because some of them may like being happy may, sometimes we think that it brings us happiness. Because our desire of being contained, happy with that circumstances sometimes get upset us after when we lose the taste or lose the happiness of that condition. So before we have that losing, suffering of losing, if we know in advance or if we give information in our brain that one day it's going to lose this taste or that happiness, then our information will be pop up when the time comes. When the time comes, it pops up because we train our mind or tell our mind that think that way when we have that really in that trouble. So it gives us an opportunity to think not reactive negatively. It teaches us our mind to react positive way. Okay, I know that it's going to happen like this. So it's easier for us to letting go. And whole purpose of seeing this mundane or worldly consent is to letting go many of your expectations, many of your desires, many of your attachments. And after you learn this in our general concept, then you build up the understanding about being adopted with the condemnments. Using our consequences into path. Like if you lose this, let's say, if you give example of somebody abuse you, then see from different angle, and instead of this, you learn be patience. And I'm saying the correct patience, not getting angry. You just patience. Okay, yeah, whatever you want to say, you say. The most important, don't let disturb your mind by these things. Because after all, you need a mental peace, right? So mental peace comes from accepting these things. That and I think that especially the Westerner, we have a very challenging for accepting these things, because culturally we look this as a positive things, in our life. We always look this as a positive things. That's necessary for me, and this is also my right. Maybe if this become the law of the country, like say, oh, this is we should abandon the advertently consent. then we definitely we will be a protest. Okay, why we have this? Because this is our right. Because actually, what happens? Because actually we don't see the reality. Why this brings a problem? Because these are all mixed with the afflicting emotions. Does this make sense? I hope so. So if you really want to be happy emotionally, even you don't believe in the enlightenment, at least you try to see the drawbacks of this. When you get really upset, why you get upset with losing something precious? Because we're gonna lose even our precious body. Especially if think carefully, it's so horrible. It's so meaningless to get so upset with when we're losing something. Like our physical body, we cherish this so much in this life. Time of our death, even your most beloved one don't want to keep that your physical body. Really. They will say, oh, it's going to rotate up, remove this, that they will block this. Okay, remove, tomorrow we will do the, what do you call this? Criminal, or we do this, we do this bury, we do this, fast, we remove. That the same person that you love so much and hugs every day and do all these good things, and the time of death, this same body was, now you don't want to see anymore. Why? So like here it teaches us also not only about accepting. Accepting is one thing. Also understand the reality. Like sometimes we get really upset, like being letting go, or being part, or being losing. After a few months, a few years, we reflected that situation and getting so like oh, why I get so depressed with those days like this while losing this? We feel so stupid. So that time our mind is so weak to see the real circumstances in that time. Because our wisdom is not developed to understand the real facts. So this is the one point. And then it will be concerned praise and blames. In Buddhism, praise and blame, all these meditation practitioners, they go to see this. I read the one book that this says this in Catholic priest in Rome. He always asks his followers to criticize him, criticize every time. Even they didn't see any fault in him, he wants everybody to criticize him. I think that is so great, really, many of time when we sometimes we see here one time, it's really get upset us in the first moment. Second time you hear, third time you hear, first, then after you hear, you don't care about that. Why? Because we see, after hearing many times, we know that it's just a wobble. It doesn't make a difference for us. But why it's so big issue for us when we get this, especially like discrimination? Because we realize that other people makes a difference because of saying this. So anyway, this is really we need to think. And when actually the most important is to actually see when really this happening in our daily life, instead of yelling or instead of just reacting negatively, just take a some minutes, reflect it, maybe take deep breath, I don't know, then cool down. And that's really time for you to cool down, emotionally cool down, then see the reality. So its difference is for you, for benefit is on you, not on other people. Then even he say, like, he really, when the people criticize, he means that they want you to make angry when you hear these words. Then if you don't react, he maybe lose to hope to make you miserable. Then who wins? You win or he wins? After all, he wins. Of course, it's not a win-win. Its idea is to how do you deal with your emotions. When a situation like this, I'm giving the example. Okay, so we have not much time to left. Okay, whatever the information that I'm sharing you, I hope that most important for us, when we have come into the spiritual gathering like this, try to put that into our daily life. Try to understand the deeper meaning about this, and try to integrate this in day-to-day life. Then it makes a difference. Doesn't matter whether this is a Buddhist tradition or Christian tradition. If it is really serve the purpose of you to become more happy, why you not accept it? Like, we go into this country, we have hundreds of different restaurants, different food. Nobody complain. We go there and pay and eat and be happy. Same thing, if we see the value and see the purpose of those beliefs and belief systems, those information which makes our life more meaningful and more happier, more transforming into a positive way of living, then you take this and cultivate those values and try to live with that principle. If you live with that principle, you don't need to become wearing some Buddhist monk's clothes or some pop's clothes, and then you don't need to be pretend like some spiritual person. We are really true spiritual person for our own benefit. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that there is some benefit and some information for making your life more conducive and more